Welcome back, Rare Coin Insider. Imagine holding a small, seemingly ordinary coin in your hand, something most people would overlook without a second thought, yet hidden within that tiny piece of metal could be a story stretching across decades, a blend of history, economics, design, and human curiosity that transforms it from a simple 1-cent coin into a subject of fascination and, in rare cases, astonishing value. Today we dive deeply into the world of the 1981 cent coin, a coin that at first glance appears common, almost insignificant, yet under certain conditions and rare variations has captured the attention of collectors around the world, sometimes being talked about with exaggerated claims of reaching values as high as millions of dollars. Even figures like $158 million circulating in online discussions, raising questions, curiosity, and excitement among new and seasoned collectors alike. Now picture the year 1980, a time when the global economy was shifting, inflation was a major concern, and governments were constantly balancing the cost of producing currency with its actual value. The 1-cent coin, often referred to as a penny in the United States, was still an essential part of everyday transactions. Millions upon millions of these coins were minted and circulated, passing through countless hands, pockets, and cash registers. Most of them were used, worn down, scratched, and eventually forgotten, but a few managed to remain in exceptional condition, preserved either intentionally or by pure chance, and these are the coins that collectors hunt for today. The 1981 cent coin is primarily composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, a composition that gives it its familiar reddish-brown color when new, gradually darkening over time due to oxidation and exposure. The weight of this coin is approximately 3.11 grams, a standard that remained consistent for copper pennies before the major composition change in 1982, when the United States shifted to a zinc core with a thin copper plating. This weight is a critical factor for collectors because any deviation could indicate an error coin, and error coins are where things start to get interesting and potentially valuable. When you look closely at the design of the 1981 cent coin, you see the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse side, a design that has been in use since 1909, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. Lincoln's profile faces right, with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," above his head, "Liberty," to the left, and the year 1980 to the right. Just below the year, you may also notice a small mint mark, depending on where the coin was produced. Coins minted in Philadelphia typically have no mint mark, while those from Denver carry a small D, and coins from San Francisco, though mostly proofs, bear an S. On the reverse side, the coin features the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. If you look very closely, you can even see a tiny representation of Lincoln seated within the memorial, a remarkable detail considering the small size of the coin. The inscriptions, "United States of America," and 1 cent, surround the memorial, along with the motto, "E pluribus unum." This design remained in use until 2008, making it a familiar image for generations. Now, while millions of 1980 pennies were minted, the majority of them hold only face value or slightly more due to their copper content, but the real intrigue lies in the rare variations, minting errors, and condition grades that can elevate a simple coin into a collector's treasure. For example, coins that were struck with double dies, off-center strikes, or other minting anomalies can be worth significantly more than their face value. A double die occurs when the coin is struck more than once with slight misalignment, resulting in a noticeable doubling of the design elements, particularly in the lettering or numbers. Another factor that dramatically affects value is the condition of the coin, often graded on a scale from poor to mint state. Coins that have never been circulated and retain their original luster are considered mint state and can command much higher prices. Within this category, Grades like MS65 or MS67 indicate coins of exceptional quality, free from visible wear and with minimal imperfections. These are the coins that collectors are willing to pay a premium for, especially if they are from a year with known variations or errors. There are also proof coins from 1980, produced primarily for collectors rather than circulation. These coins were struck with specially prepared dies and polished blanks, resulting in a mirror-like finish and sharp details. Proof coins from the San Francisco Mint, marked with an S, can be particularly desirable, especially if they are preserved in their original packaging or graded highly by professional grading services. Now let's address the most exciting and controversial aspect, the claim of a 1981-cent coin being worth $158 million. While such a figure is extremely unlikely and not supported by verified auction records, it reflects the kind of myths and viral stories that circulate in the world of coin collecting. These stories often stem from misunderstandings, exaggerated listings, or misinterpretations of rare coin values. However, they do serve an important purpose by sparking interest and encouraging people to examine their coins more closely. In reality, the highest values for 1980 pennies are typically found in rare error coins or those in near-perfect condition. Some high-grade specimens have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, particularly if they possess unique characteristics that set them apart from the millions of others minted that year. While not reaching millions, these values are still impressive for a coin with a face value of just 1 cent. The market for collectible coins is driven by supply and demand, rarity, condition, and historical significance. Auction houses, online marketplaces, and coin shows all play a role in determining current market values. Prices can fluctuate based on trends, collector interest, and the discovery of new varieties. For example, if a previously unknown error type is discovered in 1980 pennies, it could suddenly increase demand and drive up prices for similar coins. Collectors often use tools like magnifying glasses, digital scales, and reference guides to examine their coins in detail. Identifying a valuable coin requires patience, knowledge, and sometimes a bit of luck. Many collectors have stories of finding rare coins in pocket change, inherited collections, or even old jars stored away for years. The 1980 penny also represents a transitional period in coin production, just before the shift to zinc-based pennies in 1982. This makes it part of the final era of traditional copper pennies, adding a layer of historical significance. As copper prices rise, even common pennies from this era are sometimes hoarded for their metal value, though melting them down is restricted by law in many places. Another fascinating aspect is how these coins travel through time. A penny minted in 1980 could have passed through thousands of hands, been used in countless transactions, and witnessed decades of economic and social change. Each scratch, mark, and discoloration tells a story, making every coin unique in its own way. For new collectors, the 1980 penny is an excellent starting point. It is widely available, affordable, and offers opportunities to learn about grading, mint marks, and error identification. By studying coins like this, collectors develop the skills needed to identify more valuable pieces in the future. As you continue to explore deeper into the fascinating world of the 1981-cent coin, you begin to realize that what separates an ordinary coin from a potentially valuable one is not just age or metal content, but a combination of subtle details that many people overlook every single day. Imagine someone casually receiving change at a shop, tossing the coins into a drawer without a second glance, completely unaware that among those coins could be a rare minting error or an exceptionally preserved specimen that collectors would eagerly pay for. This is exactly what makes coin collecting so exciting, because treasure can hide in plain sight. Now think about the minting process itself back in 1980. Massive machines operating at high speed, stamping thousands of coins every minute, each coin being struck with intense pressure between two dies. Under such conditions, even the smallest misalignment or mechanical issue could produce an error, and these errors are what collectors pay special attention to. For example, an off-center strike occurs when the coin blank is not properly aligned with the dies, resulting in part of the design missing and a blank crescent shape visible on the coin. Depending on how dramatic the error is, such coins can become highly desirable. Another fascinating error type is the broad strike, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar, causing it to spread out more than usual and appear slightly larger and thinner. Then, there are clipped planchets, where a portion of the coin is missing due to an issue with the metal sheet before the coin was even struck. These unique shapes instantly stand out and attract collectors who specialize in error coins. But perhaps one of the most talked about features in coins, like the 1980 penny, is the possibility of double die errors. These occur when the die used to strike the coin has a misalignment during its creation, causing elements of the design to appear doubled. This doubling can sometimes be seen in the lettering, such as the words, "Liberty," or "In God We Trust," or even in the numbers of the date. While not every doubled coin is extremely valuable, strong and clearly visible doubling can significantly increase a coin's worth. Now let's consider the role of mint marks in more detail. In 1980, pennies were primarily minted in two locations for circulation, Philadelphia and Denver. The Philadelphia coins, as mentioned earlier, usually do not have a mint mark, while the Denver coins carry a small d. The total mintage numbers were enormous, with billions of coins produced, which is why most 1980 pennies are still very common today. However, within those billions, slight variations and rare errors can make certain coins stand out dramatically. Proof coins from the San Francisco Mint add another layer of interest. These coins were not intended for circulation, but were instead produced for collectors. They have a distinctive mirror-like finish and are struck multiple times to ensure sharp detail. If you ever come across a 1980s proof penny, especially one that has been well preserved, it could be worth significantly more than a standard circulated coin. Some collectors focus exclusively on proof coins due to their beauty and craftsmanship. Now let's talk about grading in more depth, because this is where things become very technical and, at the same time, very important for determining value. Professional grading services use a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a perfect coin with no visible flaws even under magnification. A coin graded MS-70 is extremely rare and commands a very high price. Even coins graded MS-65 or MS-67 can be quite valuable, especially if they have strong luster, sharp details, and minimal marks. Luster is another key factor that collectors look for. It refers to the way light reflects off the surface of the coin, creating a kind of shine or glow. Original mint luster is highly prized because it indicates that the coin has not been cleaned or heavily handled. Cleaning a coin, even with good intentions, can actually reduce its value significantly because it alters the original surface. Color also plays a role, particularly for copper coins like the 1980 penny. Collectors often categorize them as red, red-brown, or brown. Red coins retain most of their original copper color and are generally the most valuable, while brown coins have darkened over time due to oxidation. A fully red 1980 penny in high mint state condition can be worth much more than a brown one in the same grade. Now coming back to the idea of extreme values, like $158 million, it's important to understand how such numbers sometimes appear online. In many cases, these are either listing prices set by sellers hoping to attract attention or misunderstandings where someone confuses a rare coin from a different year or type with a common one, like the 1980 penny. However, there is a psychological effect here as well. When people hear about such high values, it creates excitement and encourages them to check their own coins, which in turn keeps the hobby alive and growing. In reality, The most valuable 1980 pennies are typically those with unique errors or those graded at the very top of the scale. Some rare examples have sold for hundreds or even a few $1,000s, especially if they are certified by professional grading companies and come with documented authenticity. These sales usually take place at auctions, where collectors compete against each other, driving up the price based on demand. The coin market itself is constantly evolving. Online platforms have made it easier than ever for collectors to buy and sell coins, but they have also introduced challenges, such as counterfeit coins and misleading listings. This is why knowledge is so important. A well-informed collector can identify genuine coins, understand grading, and avoid overpaying for something that is not truly rare. Another interesting angle is the historical context of the 1980 penny. This was a time when the cost of producing pennies was approaching or even exceeding their face value, leading to discussions about changing the composition. Just 2 years later, in 1982, the switch to zinc-based pennies was implemented, marking the end of an era. This makes pre-1982 copper pennies, including the 1980 coin, somewhat special because they represent the final years of traditional coin production methods. You might also find it fascinating that some collectors choose to collect entire rolls or even bags of pennies from specific years, hoping to find hidden gems within them. This practice, known as coin roll hunting, has become quite popular. People go to banks, obtain rolls of coins, and carefully examine each one under magnification, searching for errors, high-grade specimens, or rare varieties. It's a hobby that combines patience, knowledge, and a bit of luck. As your understanding grows, you begin to see that the value of a coin is not fixed but is influenced by many factors, including market demand, rarity, condition, and even the story behind the coin. A coin that might be worth only a few cents today could become more valuable in the future if interest increases, or if new information comes to light. As we move further into the world of the 1981-cent coin, we begin to explore not just its physical characteristics and minting variations, but also the psychology of collectors, the evolution of coin markets, and how modern technology has completely transformed the way rare coins are discovered, valued, and traded across the world. What once required years of experience, physical auctions, and printed catalogs can now be influenced in seconds through online marketplaces, digital grading databases, and global collector communities. Imagine a collector sitting at home with a simple magnifying glass, going through a small pile of 1980 pennies obtained from a bank roll. To an ordinary person, this might look like nothing more than spare change sorting. But to a trained eye, every coin is a possibility. Every small imperfection, every shine difference, every unusual edge becomes a potential clue. This is where modern coin hunting becomes a blend of science and intuition. One of the most important developments in modern numismatics is third-party grading. Companies like Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Company have completely changed the trust system in the coin market. Before these services existed, buyers had to rely on the seller's word or their own judgment. Now, coins are sealed in tamper-proof holders, assigned a grade, and tracked with certification numbers. This has helped stabilize pricing and reduce fraud, especially in online auctions. For a 1980 penny, grading can make an enormous difference. A coin that looks almost identical to another in casual viewing may receive a grade of MS63, MS65, or MS67, and each step upward can significantly increase its value. Even a 1-point difference in grading can sometimes double the price if demand is strong. This is why collectors are so careful about handling coins. Even fingerprints can damage the surface and reduce potential value. Another fascinating aspect is population reports. These reports show how many coins of a specific year, mint mark, and grade have been certified. If a 1980 penny in a high grade is extremely rare according to population data, collectors immediately take interest. Scarcity and verified condition is one of the strongest drivers of value in the coin world. Now let's talk about the broader copper penny market, because the 1981 cent coin is part of a much larger story. Copper itself has intrinsic value, and fluctuations in metal prices affect how people view older pennies. At times when copper prices rise, people begin hoarding pre-1982 pennies because of their metal content, even though melting them is restricted in the United States. This creates a psychological effect where even common coins suddenly feel more valuable. But the real excitement always remains in rarity, not metal value. For example, a perfectly struck 1980 penny with full red luster, no contact marks, and strong eye appeal can stand out even among millions of similar coins. Collectors often describe this as eye appeal, a subjective but powerful factor that can push prices higher even within the same grade. There is also an emotional side to collecting that cannot be ignored. Many collectors remember finding their first interesting coin as children. It could have been a slightly shiny penny or one with a strange mark. That small moment often grows into a lifelong passion. The 1980 penny, being common yet occasionally special, is often one of those coins that introduces people to the hobby. Let's also consider international interest. While the 1981 cent coin is a United States coin, collectors from around the world participate in its market. Online platforms allow buyers from Europe, Asia, and the Middle East to compete in the same auctions. This global demand sometimes increases prices, especially for high-grade certified examples. Now, regarding viral claims, like a $158 million value, it's important to understand how internet misinformation spreads in the coin world. Sometimes, a rare coin from a completely different series gets mistakenly labeled as a 1980 penny. Other times, edited images or fake listings circulate on social media, attracting attention and confusion. These stories spread quickly because they are exciting, even if they are not realistic. However, they do contribute to increased awareness of coin collecting overall. Still, while $158 million is not a realistic market value for any known 1981 cent coin, the idea reflects something important: human fascination with hidden treasure. People love the idea that something ordinary could turn out to be extraordinary. And in rare cases, coins really do surprise people with unexpected value, even if not on such extreme levels. Another key topic is die deterioration. Over time, coin dies wear out from constant use. As they degrade, the coins they produce begin to show slight distortions, weaker details, or unusual surface textures. Some collectors even specialize in identifying late-stage die strikes because they can create subtle varieties that become collectible in their own right. There is also the concept of mint errors being duplicated across multiple coins. If a die has a flaw, every coin struck from it may carry that same flaw until the die is replaced. This means certain error types can exist in small batches rather than single unique pieces, which affects rarity and value. Collectors also pay attention to strike quality. A strong strike means the coin received full pressure during minting, resulting in sharp and detailed features. Weak strikes, on the other hand, may appear blurry or incomplete. Interestingly, a weak strike is not always negative in terms of value. If it is associated with a known variety or mint condition rarity, it can still be desirable. As we move deeper into analysis, we also find that preservation plays a massive role in value. Coins stored in albums, protective holders, or original mint sets tend to survive in much better condition than those left in open circulation. Environmental factors like humidity, air pollution, and handling frequency all contribute to how a coin ages over time. The 1980 penny also serves as a snapshot of American monetary history. It represents a period before digital payments became dominant, when physical cash was still the primary method of daily exchange. Each coin from that era carries a sense of tangible history, connecting us to everyday life from over 4 decades ago. Some collectors even build thematic collections, grouping coins by decade, mint, or design type. The 1980 penny often appears in modern copper cent collections or present transition era sets. These collections are not just about value, but about storytelling through currency. Looking at market trends, demand for Lincoln cents remains strong due to their long production history and accessibility. Even beginners can enter the hobby easily, while advanced collectors continue searching for elusive high-grade or rare examples. This balance keeps the market active and constantly evolving. As we continue even deeper into the story of the 1981 cent coin, we start to move beyond just collecting and grading and enter a more advanced level of numismatics, where specialists study microscopic details, die varieties, mint production patterns, and statistical rarity models that help determine why certain coins become valuable while others remain common despite looking almost identical to the untrained EYE.at. This level, collectors are no longer just looking at whether a coin is old or shiny. Instead, they are studying strike pressure, die alignment, planchet quality, and even the microscopic flow lines created during the minting process. These flow lines are tiny metallic patterns formed when metal is forced under extreme pressure into a coin die, and under magnification, they can reveal a lot about how well a coin was struck and how long a die had been in use. For the 1980 penny, one of the most important areas of study is die state progression. A fresh die produces sharp, detailed coins with strong features, but as the die is used repeatedly, it begins to wear down. Early die state coins often show crisp detail in Lincoln's hair, beard lines, and facial contours, as well as sharp lettering on Liberty and In God We Trust. As the die ages, these details soften, and eventually, cracks may appear on the surface of the coin. These die cracks are not random defects in the coin itself, but reflections of damage on the die used to strike it. Interestingly, die cracks can sometimes create collectible varieties. If a crack becomes prominent and repeats across multiple coins, collectors may identify it as a recognized variety and assign a catalog value. This is how even imperfect coins can gain significance in numismatic studies. Another advanced topic is strike pressure variation. In high-speed minting environments like the United States Mint in 1980, not every coin receives identical pressure. Slight variations in striking force can result in differences in detail sharpness. A strongly struck coin will show deep, clear details, while a weak strike might appear softer or less defined, especially in high-relief areas of the design. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents often examine the coin steps on the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse side. Full steps coins, where the steps of the memorial are fully visible and uninterrupted, are highly desirable. Even minor contact marks or weak strikes that obscure these steps can significantly reduce collector value in high-grade coins. Now let's step into the topic of population scarcity in more detail. In modern numismatics, rarity is not just about how many coins were minted, but how many survive in top condition today. The 1980 penny had billions minted, but only a very small fraction survive in high mint state grades, like MS66 or above. Even fewer exist in perfect MS67 or MS68 condition. This extreme drop-off between original mintage and surviving high-grade coins is what creates true scarcity in the collector market. This is why certified population reports are so important. If only a handful of 1980 pennies are recorded at a top grade across all grading services, those coins immediately become highly desirable. Collectors and investors pay close attention to these reports because they reflect real-world availability rather than theoretical mintage numbers. Another fascinating aspect is the concept of conditional rarity. A coin may not be rare in terms of production, but it becomes rare in a specific condition. The 1980 penny is a perfect example. While common in circulated form, it becomes increasingly rare as condition improves. This shift from abundance to scarcity based on grade is one of the core principles that drives coin values in the modern market. Now, we also need to talk about color designation in a more technical way. Copper coins, like the 1980 cent, undergo a natural chemical process called oxidation when exposed to air. This process slowly changes the surface color from bright red to reddish brown and eventually to deep brown. The classification system used by graders typically divides copper coins into three categories: red, red-brown, and brown. Red coins retain at least 95% of their original mint color and are considered the most visually appealing and often the most valuable in high grades. Red-brown coins show a mix of original mint color and darker tones, while brown coins have mostly oxidized surfaces. A red 1980 penny in MS66 or higher can be significantly more valuable than a brown example in the same grade due to eye appeal and preservation quality. Let's now explore how collectors authenticate coins in detail. Authentication involves checking weight, diameter, metal composition, strike characteristics, and even sound tests in some cases. The standard weight of a 1981 cent coin is approximately 3.11 grams, and any significant deviation may indicate damage, corrosion, or in rare cases, alteration. Diameter and thickness are also checked against official mint specifications. Even small differences can suggest post-mint manipulation or counterfeit production. However, because the 1980 penny is so common, counterfeits of standard versions are rare. Most concerns arise when a coin is falsely presented as an error or extremely high-grade specimen. Now, let's revisit the idea of market hype versus real value. In online spaces, especially social media platforms, coins are often presented with exaggerated claims to attract attention. A common pattern is listing ordinary coins with extremely high prices, such as millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars. While these listings are not realistic, they do highlight an important psychological factor. Curiosity drives engagement. In reality, verified auction results are the only reliable source for understanding coin value. Auction houses provide documented sales history, where coins are graded, authenticated, and sold to the highest bidder. For 1980 pennies, verified sales typically range from face value for circulated examples to modest amounts for high-grade or error coins, with exceptional certified specimens reaching higher but still realistic collector-driven prices. Another interesting layer is the role of digital marketplaces. Platforms like eBay and specialized coin forums have made coin trading accessible to a global audience. However, they also require buyers to be cautious, as not all listings are accurate or professionally verified. Experienced collectors often rely on certified grading numbers and reputable sellers to avoid misrepresentation. We also need to understand how collector demand evolves over time. Interest in specific coin years can increase due to educational content, viral videos, or newly discovered varieties. Sometimes a single discovery of a rare error can spark renewed interest in an entire year's production. The 1980 penny, while generally stable in value, can still experience small waves of increased attention depending on trends in the numismatic community. At a deeper level, collecting coins, like the 1980 cent, is not just about financial gain. For many people, it becomes a way to connect with history, to hold something tangible that has passed through time, economies, and human hands. Each coin becomes a silent witness to decades of change, from inflation cycles to technological revolutions, from handwritten transactions to digital payments. And as we move through all these layers of detail, from minting machines to microscopic die analysis, from grading systems to global marketplaces, we begin to understand that the 1981 cent coin is not just a small piece of currency. It is a gateway into a complex world where science, history, economics, and human curiosity all intersect, creating a hobby that continues to grow with every new collector who looks at an ordinary penny and wonders if it might be something extraordinary waiting to be discovered. As we continue this deep journey into the world of the 1981-cent coin, we now begin to shift into the most practical and real-world side of coin collecting, where people actually go out, search, discover, evaluate, and sometimes even sell these coins based on knowledge, patience, and timing in the market. This is the part where theory meets reality, and where ordinary people can sometimes stumble upon something that surprises even experienced collectors. Imagine going to a bank and asking for a simple roll of pennies. To most people, it is just spare change in bulk form, nothing special at all. But to a coin hunter, that roll is a mystery box. Inside it could be hundreds of coins, and among them, a 1980 penny with a rare strike, a perfect surface, or a hidden net error that changes everything. This is where the excitement begins, because unlike many collectibles, coins are still actively circulating, meaning new discoveries are always possible. When collectors search through rolls, they follow a method. They don't just randomly look, they check systematically. First, they sort by year, separating older coins like 1980 and earlier from newer zinc-based pennies. Then, they examine each coin under good lighting, sometimes using magnifiers or small digital microscopes. They look for specific signs like doubling in letters, unusual edges, discoloration patterns, or anything that breaks the normal appearance of a standard coin. One of the most important skills in this process is pattern recognition. After seeing thousands of coins, experienced collectors can immediately recognize when something feels off. It might be a slightly different shine, an unusual strike strength, or a small detail that doesn't match standard production. That instinct often leads to discovering valuable errors that others might overlook. Now let's talk more about circulation wear and how it affects value. A 1980 penny that has been heavily circulated will show clear signs of wear, such as smoothing on Lincoln's hair, fading of lettering, and loss of original luster. These coins usually hold only face value, unless they have a rare error. However, even within circulated coins, there are different levels of preservation. Some coins may have only light wear, making them slightly more desirable for collectors building date sets. Uncirculated coins, on the other hand, are a completely different category. These are coins that never entered regular use and were preserved either in mint sets or carefully stored collections. An uncirculated 1980 penny may still retain sharp details and original mint shine. Within this category, the difference between a good uncirculated coin and a top-grade mint state coin can be very subtle, but extremely important in terms of value. Another important factor is strike quality consistency. During high-speed minting in 1980, not every coin was struck under identical conditions. Some coins may have slightly misaligned strikes, while others may show stronger pressure and sharper detail. These differences are part of normal mint variation, but in high-grade collecting, they become critical evaluation points. Collectors also pay attention to rim condition. A well-struck coin will have a clean, defined rim, while weaker strikes or post-mint damage may show irregular edges. Even small nicks or dents on the rim can affect grading, especially in higher mint state categories. Now let's move into the idea of rarity versus perception. One of the biggest misunderstandings in coin collecting is that age automatically equals value. This is not true. The 1980 penny is a perfect example. It is not old enough to be rare in general terms, because billions still exist. However, rarity in numismatics is not about how many were made, but how many survive in exceptional condition or with unique characteristics. This is why collectors often say condition is everything. A common coin in perfect condition can be more valuable than a rare coin in poor condition. This principle is especially important when evaluating coins like the 1980 cent, where survival in top condition is much rarer than the coin itself. Now we should also discuss the emotional excitement that comes with discovery. Many collectors describe the moment they find something unusual as thrilling, almost like a small treasure hunt. Even if the coin turns out not to be extremely valuable, the process itself creates satisfaction. This emotional connection is one of the main reasons coin collecting remains popular across generations. Let's also consider how knowledge spreads in the modern era. In the past, collectors relied heavily on books, catalogs, and local coin dealers. Today, information spreads instantly through videos, forums, and online communities. This has made it easier for beginners to learn, but it has also created misinformation challenges. Claims about extremely high values, such as multi-million-dollar 1980 pennies, often spread quickly without verification, creating confusion among new collectors. However, this digital environment also has a positive side. It allows rare discoveries to be shared globally within minutes. If someone finds an unusual 1980 penny with a potential mint error, they can instantly share images with experts around the world for opinions. This collective knowledge helps validate finds and improve accuracy in identification. Another important aspect is investment thinking in coin collecting. Some people collect purely for hobby purposes, while others view coins as long-term investments. In investment-focused collecting, factors like grading, certification, population reports, and market demand become extremely important. A well-graded rare coin can hold or increase its value over time, while ungraded or damaged coins are less predictable in the market. Still, even in investment circles, coins like the 1980 penny are generally not considered high-value investment pieces unless they have exceptional characteristics. Instead, they serve more as entry points into the hobby or as part of larger collections. We should also talk about storage, because preservation plays a massive role in maintaining value. Coins are typically stored in protective holders, plastic capsules, or specialized albums that prevent air exposure and physical contact. Improper storage can lead to toning, corrosion, or surface damage, all of which reduce collector value over time. Environmental control is also important. Humidity, temperature changes, and exposure to chemicals can all affect copper coins like the 1980 penny. This is why serious collectors often store their collections in controlled environments to preserve original surfaces. Now, as we look at the bigger picture, we begin to understand how a simple 1-cent coin becomes part of a much larger system of history, economics, collecting culture, and human curiosity. The 1980 penny is not just a piece of currency. It is a reflection of a time when physical money dominated daily life, when coins moved through countless hands, and when each transaction was a small physical exchange rather than a digital number on a screen. And even today, decades later, these coins continue to circulate, continue to be discovered, and continue to inspire curiosity in people who might never have thought twice about them before. That is the true power of coin collecting. It transforms something ordinary into something meaningful, something overlooked into something examined, and sometimes, something simple into something unexpectedly valuable. As we reach the final part of this deep exploration into the 1981 cent coin, we come to the point where everything connects: history, design, minting science, collecting psychology, and real-world market truth. By now, it should be clear that this small copper-colored coin is far more than just 1 cent of value. It is a symbol of an era, a product of industrial precision, and a quiet witness to decades of economic life. When we step back and look at the 1980 penny as a whole, we see a coin produced during a time when the United States Mint was operating at extremely high output levels. Billions of pennies were created, each one identical in intention, but never truly identical in perfection. That is where the hidden world of numismatics begins. Small imperfections, slight variations, and rare mistakes turn mass production into individual stories. Every 1980 penny carries the same basic identity: Abraham Lincoln on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back, the familiar inscriptions, and the standard weight of around 3.11 grams. But within that uniformity lies endless variation. Some coins were struck slightly off-center, some with weaker pressure, some with die wear, and a very small number with unusual mint errors that collectors actively search for even today. And yet, despite all the excitement, one important truth remains constant in the real coin market. The 1981 cent coin is not a $1 million coin in normal conditions. Claims of extreme values like $158 million belong to internet exaggeration, misunderstanding, or viral misinformation. No verified auction records support such numbers for this coin. But that does not reduce its importance. It simply places its value in the correct reality, where true worth is measured in rarity, condition, and collector demand rather than fantasy figures. In real terms, a standard 1980 penny found in circulation is worth face value. Even in uncirculated condition, many examples remain affordable. Only specific cases, high-grade certified coins, dramatic mint errors, or exceptional preservation specimens, achieve higher prices, sometimes reaching modest collector-level values. And even then, the value comes not from hype, but from documented scarcity and verified grading. But here is where the story becomes truly meaningful. Value is not always about money. The 1980 penny teaches something deeper about attention and perception. It teaches that ordinary objects can contain extraordinary detail if we take the time to observe them closely. It teaches that history is not only found in museums or textbooks, but also in the small coins passed from hand to hand in daily life. It teaches patience, because finding something special requires effort, repetition, and a trained eye. Think about how many people have held a 1980 penny without ever noticing anything special about it. Now think about the few collectors who, through experience and curiosity, can pick out a rare error or a high-grade specimen from thousands of ordinary coins. The difference is not luck alone, it is knowledge. That knowledge turns a simple hobby into a lifelong skill. And this is why coin collecting continues to survive in a world moving rapidly toward digital currency. Even as money becomes invisible in phones and computers, physical coins still carry a sense of reality that digital numbers cannot replace. A coin has weight, texture, sound, and history. It can be held, studied, and passed down. It exists in the physical world, unchanged by passwords or screens. The 1980 penny also represents transition. It belongs to the final era before major changes in U.S. penny composition and production practices. It stands near the boundary between traditional copper coinage and modern zinc-based production. That makes it historically interesting, even if it is not rare in the conventional sense. For collectors, the real excitement is not just in finding value, but in understanding transformation. A coin like this passes through time quietly, surviving inflation changes, economic shifts, technological revolutions, and generations of human exchange. It might have been used to buy candy in the 1980s, sit in a drawer in the 1990s, and then reappear decades later in the hands of a collector holding a magnifying glass. That journey is the true story of the coin. And as we reach the end of this exploration, the final message is simple but powerful. Every coin has potential, but not every coin has extreme monetary value. The difference lies in rarity, condition, and verified characteristics, not internet myths or exaggerated claims. So, if you ever come across a 1981 cent coin, take a moment. Look at it closely. Check its details. Appreciate its design. Understand its history. Because while it may not make you a millionaire, it connects you to a much larger world, one where small objects carried long stories, and where curiosity itself is the real treasure. And in the end, that is what coin collecting truly is. Not just the search for value, but the discovery of meaning in things most people overlook every day.